Hello. I want to discuss a bit these accusations that have been rising against Harvey Weinstein in the US, and it's possible there are going to be new cases opening up in the UK. As I understand it, in order to address any claims made here, um, Harvey Weinstein would have to be extradited from the United States first, and that seems unlikely anytime soon because they want to clear up or to deal with the cases that are emerging there. So I want to address this because I think the issues are very, very important, obviously, and they have major implications of how these things are dealt with in the world of Hollywood, but also generally social attitudes to them both ways. Um, so what we know so far is that the Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein of the Weinstein Company, I've seen many films by that company, so I knew the name from that. Um, has been accused of serious sexual misconduct, including right up to rape, in claims that go back decades. And there have been some very big names coming forward making these accusations. Angelina Jolie, Gwyneth Paltrow, and the actresses Rose McGowan and Asia Argento have even insinuated that they were raped, or well, not insinuated, they have claimed that they were raped by Harvey Weinstein. And there have been numerous others. Emma Thompson, in an interview, said that this sort of behaviour is rife in Hollywood. And she said that it might not all be as bad as the level of Harvey Weinstein, but it's rife in the industry. Now, there's been a lot of debate points around this. Firstly, why has Hollywood shielded this man for so long? Secondly, there are some attacking the women, saying, well, why have they waited so long? If this guy was a predator, why did they wait so long to come forward? I think we know from previous cases that there is a risk for a victim coming forward from not being believed. And I think we've seen from previous cases, um, high profile cases of either sexual predators or pedophiles, that you have a situation whereby when victims do come forward, if they're going up against a big mogul or a big presenter or some big name, whether it be a big actor, a media mogul, or a presenter, then it's a David and Goliath situation because it's far more likely that they're dismissed as an attention seeker or a liar than it is that the person will be taking um, that the allegations will be taken seriously. Now, whether it's because people think, oh, well, someone in his position isn't going to risk that, or whether it's because people are blinded by stardom. Now, in this particular case, I don't think it's the latter, because Harvey Weinstein he's a producer, he's a big name, and he's a very powerful figure, but he's not necessarily a public figure in the same way as an A-list actor would be. He's more a behind the scenes celebrity, if that makes any sense, in the sense that he's not necessarily a recognizable face in the way that an A-list actor would be. He's famous and he's powerful. But the reason I mention that is because there has been a different attitude um, between him and some other people. I remember when when claims came forward against Roman Polanski, there was a lot of people lining up to defend Polanski, including, I imagine, some of the people who are now throwing accusations at Harvey Weinstein. So there is a bit of hypocrisy there. And I heard someone mention, well, is it the fact that Weinstein is more the money man and Polanski was more of a creator? Um, but then again, maybe things have changed since forget when the Polanski claims were. I think it was about 4 or 5, maybe even further years ago. Mel Gibson is a creator, director, and actor, and he certainly got um, quite a lot of a rough ride from Hollywood from the accusations that went against him from domestic violence. But this time it looks like there's no holds bar. Everyone's coming out and saying, yeah, this guy is guilty. Now, I have to say a few things. Firstly, I believe in due process for anybody, regardless of who they are. whether they be a Joe Average or the most powerful person in the world. I believe in due process, although the President of the United States, as I understand, is immune from prosecution whilst he is president. But the point I'm making is that fame can either be a detriment or it can be an advantage. It can be an advantage in that it can turn people, to blindly defend you, but it could also be a disadvantage in that the fame itself is a punishment. But I do think it's important to say that if we were talking about one woman, it would be her word against his. It has to be said that Harvey Weinstein has insisted that all sexual conduct was consensual. I have my doubts because there's a video that's going around purporting to be Weinstein, propositioning a young woman purported to be, I believe, Asia Argento. Um, if that video is indeed Weinstein, if the audio is indeed Weinstein, it's pretty damning. It clearly indicates a man who is pressuring a younger woman to have sex against her will. Um, to me, that's pretty damning. The model Kelly Brook has also said that she has responded to this by saying that those women who are only come forward now are enablers because, and she's insinuated, she hasn't given any specific names, but she's insinuated that they put their careers before doing the right thing. There might be something to that, because she's saying that by enabling them, then it allowed this abuse to continue with other victims. It's very difficult to know. Because this is an ongoing case, I want to be clear. If I've made any mistakes in anything I've said, I take full responsibility for that. It is an ongoing case, and there's new claims emerging every day. There will be some who say, well, why don't these women come forward? But like I say, if there is that culture, especially if these crimes were committed against young actresses who had just got into Hollywood and they were in a more fragile position, um, then no wonder they didn't come forward. I think it would be a bit different if we were talking about like a big name today and she was making the accusation when she was an A-lister, because I think that would be more of a case of, well, he is taking a major risk there and people are just as likely to believe her. But a young actress who may not necessarily be a household name, that definitely is a situation where she's in a vulnerable position. But there's been a lot of side effects from this. James Corden has got in trouble for apparently making jokes at it at his show. He's had to kind of say on Twitter, my jokes were aimed at him, not at his victims. The Italian press has got into hot water for trying to shame some of the Italian victims. So this thing really has blown into a huge thing. I would call it the scandal of the year, along with the Bill Cosby allegations, because really it has spiraled into something huge. I believe in due process, but I also believe that by the sheer law of math, arithmetic, the chances of all these women being liars versus one man, I mean, you either believe that he's telling the truth and there's some giant conspiracy against him. If that's the case, then the obvious question is why? Or you believe that there is something to this and these women are indeed telling the truth. And I mean, for himself, he has claimed that he has sex addiction and he has a problem and he's getting it sorted out. That's not good enough. I don't think that should be used as some sort of excuse. There's a big difference between having sex addiction that is consensual, but you're doing it too much, versus using your power and prestige to exploit women in a vulnerable position. And I really think if this case shows us one thing, firstly, Weinstein has to have his day in court for the victims as much as anyone. But what this has to show is that there cannot be a situation whereby nobody, no matter how respected they are, no matter how talented they are, um, can be above scrutiny. And it may well be that there has been a culture in Hollywood. I'm not an actor. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but there may well be a culture in Hollywood that tolerates this and even placates it. And that would be a downright disgrace. Certainly, a lot of insiders have given that impression. In terms of the not coming forward thing, I understand it on some level, but I also think that if there is going to be a cultural change, then it should also be the case that people now need to have the confidence to go to the police. And I know there is that stigma of being accused of being liars, but if enough women come forward, then you can't, it's. I think there might be something to what Kelly Brook was saying. Well, if you're not going to say anything about this, you're enabling it. It's a bit like the argument women who are in a domestic violent situation, if they have children and they don't report it, they're being selfish because they're putting their children at risk. Could a similar claim be made that, well, older actresses who have went through this years ago and who are only coming forward now, are they enablers? It's quite a damning thing. But first and foremost, if Harvey Weinstein is guilty, he alone is the person to blame before anybody else. But Hollywood, the Hollywood establishment also has, the answer to this if they have been protecting this man. It's happened in other walks of life. We know about the Jimmy Savile case in the UK. And going back a few years, the Mel Gibson case, even today, I find it shocking that whole situation, the audio tapes between Mel Gibson and his Russian girlfriend. I find it absolutely shocking. The sheer number of people lining up to vilify that woman and say, oh, she's just a gold digger and she's clearly trying to extort from Mel Gibson and so on. What I would say is listen to the audios. There are things in that Mel Gibson, that whatever way you look at it, cannot be condoned when a man is threatening to put a bat to the side of a woman's head. I mean, he actually, in the audio, he does allude to her being a gold digger, but that's only part of it. There is a lot of other audio there where he is really making explicit threats. Now, I don't think she's quite as innocent as she made out, if you're familiar with the case I'm talking about. Maybe, she portrays herself as all calm. I'm sure she would have been just as vocal in her arguments as he was, but there are things that he is saying in that cannot be condoned, and I found it quite disturbing that people were condoning it. I do think that there is a problem with fanboys. What I mean by that is you get certain figures who are respected. I mean, Mel Gibson's a man's man. He's a respected film director. He's made some great films. So he's a respected figure, and therefore you get the fanboys coming out and saying, oh, he's innocent, as if they personally know him. That's one thing that irritates me about fanboys for anyone. That's why I'm very cautious about personality cults around any celebrity. There's people I respect, but if an allegation was made against them, I'm not going to say they're either innocent or guilty. I simply don't know. And it does irritate me when fans think that they know a celebrity personally. There's been many examples of this where people line up to insist that the person is innocent as if they know them personally. You don't. If you're that sort of fan, I've news for you. You're an idiot because the public image that someone portrays is not necessarily the same as their image behind closed doors. So you know the public figure, you don't know the private person. And if you think that you do, you need your head examined. Fans like that really get on my nerves. I think they're prize idiots. And I have no problem saying that because these are people who are all too happy to shame accusers. Um, as for the situation of liars, well, we know that innocent men have been falsely accused. Um, there have been a few cases where that has been the case. Cliff Richard got falsely accused. I believe the people that made accusations against him should face charges since he was cleared. But because those false accusation cases happen and because we need to keep an open mind, doesn't mean that we automatically call accusers liars, especially when there's a lot of them. And I think in this case, like I say, it comes down to two things. You either believe there's one giant conspiracy against Harvey Weinstein and all these women are liars, which I find very hard to believe, or it's true and he is indeed a sexual predator. And if it's the latter, then certainly there's already been some actions taken. The Academy Awards Committee has disassociated them with all disassociated themselves with all connections to Harvey Weinstein. I do think it's a little bit. I hope there's a trial sooner rather than later because I'm a little bit uneasy about someone being punished, actually punished before a verdict. And that's not to defend Weinstein. I hope the trial will come much sooner rather than later for everyone's sake. For everyone's sake. Um, So I hope the LAPD or whichever authority is responsible for this gets the information, gets what they need to work on, and proceeds to a trial. Because the current situation isn't helping anyone. That means there's always doubt all round. And it also means if he is guilty, well, obviously he's not facing his day in court. And if he is innocent, and I don't believe he is, but if he is, um, well then I don't think that I don't think that I'm a little bit uneasy about punishing someone, no matter how strong the allegations may be, before a verdict has been reached. So, for example, kicking him off the Oscars Academy Committee and so on. I think that would be legitimate after a trial. Now, I don't know about. Um, but like I say, that audio was pretty damning if that is indeed Harvey Weinstein. Okay, I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts. Keep it respectful.